Government is the primary cause of inflation. There is no inflation without government. Last week, Joe Biden said that government spending had nothing to do with inflation. He blamed it on Putin and the war, and certainly that can affect prices. But when he said that, I'm telling you, clouds of smoke billowed out of my ears, and I screamed at the TV, he's not just the commander-in-chief, he is the director of disinformation, the master of misinformation. By the way, if government spending doesn't affect inflation, why doesn't he send us another stimulus check to help us pay for these rising prices? Remember last year at this time, we got $1,400. We're all running around, woo, free money. Well, guess what? It's not free. Let me answer the question. What are you going to pay this year, 2022, for this ridiculous inflation rate? You need 4 of those stimulus checks. 4 just to cover the price increases of everyday stuff, gas, groceries, just the incidentals that you buy. It's truly incredible, and people are suffering. It comes mainly because the government just pours this money out of thin air into the economy. They do it through that criminal organization we call the Fed, Federal Reserve. Unelected, unaccountable, and they've just been pumping money into the economy every day for over 15 years. Started under George Bush. So they're all guilty, all politicians, all presidents. At the same time, there's not been a corresponding uptick in the supply of things. That's where inflation comes. Way more money than you have in productivity. To make it even worse, during COVID, the government paid people to stay home, not to produce. Now we got supply chain problems. I went to the store this week, could not buy my favorite crackers. Shelf was empty. So all of that says, man, we're headed for even rougher times going forward. Let me give you the first example of inflation in our nation's history. It was even before we were a nation. Jamestown, Virginia, the very first colony. I was there actually in May. So they didn't have any cash. You wanted to trade, buy stuff, but there was no cash. They came up with the idea, let's make tobacco leaves cash. And so you can imagine what happened. Everybody grew tobacco like crazy, and they had a pile of cash in their back room. Well, productivity did not go up with the amount of cash. And so, like beaver pelts, you had the same amount as you had the year before. And so this created such a demand. Everybody had so much money that supply just couldn't keep up. So prices increased. A beaver pelt last year was $1. It's $100 this year. Guess what Jamestown did? Passed a law that said nobody can grow tobacco for an entire year just to get it under control. Now, the answer is simple: capitalism. Now, the government's never going to let capitalism do its magic, but it's all a supply issue. Take oil, for instance. We all know that if you increase the supply of oil, prices will come down at the pump. Simple as that. It may take a while, but it will happen. And that just needs to be applied in every single area. I leave you with my favorite Calvin Coolidge quote. He said, "The business of government is to stay out of business."